Hello and welcome to the Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk ahead of Gameweek 27 and during the longest, most boring game week in history. My name is Joe.
My name is Holly.
My name is Az.
Welcome everyone. As we look ahead to this weekend's fixtures and beyond, there is the small matter of Man City's remaining fixture in this tortuously long game week still to go, but we're going to have a Scoutcast ahead of that because we hope the expected happens, as in Man City beat West Ham. Az, what else is coming up on the show?
Yeah, thank you to anyone who's watching us instead of or alongside the Liverpool game tonight. Very honoured. So we're going to be talking relegation scrappers. Who's going to bring in the points as teams look to avoid the drop? Man City and their financial fair play woes. They've got tricky fixtures, European ban, and Europe in general. So is it time to move on some of their players? We're going to consider this very, 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 very long winter break. And is there anything sort of FPL can learn from it to actually improve on this? Because it's been awful. And in general, is there anything they can do to improve on FPL, which I think is a good topic? We're going to talk about our Game Week 26 so far. I think you've got some roughs with the smooths this week, Joe.
I've got one. Well, I've got one, but it's
one.
as a segue into Son.
As a segue, okay, very nice. Well, the game week's still in play, so it's not really worth talking about too much. Differentials, clean sheet, and then our Game Week 27 plans and captains.
Yeah, so let's have a look at Game Week 26 so far. There's only 2 points between us all, and we've all got KDB to go, so we hope he does exceptionally well. And then after that, we'll discuss Son, because as we found out today, he's injured. So we'll first start off with Holly.
There's one thing you've left off
yes,
Joe.
you want to have you got some words about my wildcard from?
Well, I have got
the dossier.
A dossier on your. I can't believe I wasn't on last week because I saw your wildcard and I am shocked.
You're shocked.
So I need to go into that a bit with you because you can't get away with it. I don't think.
The dossier. Okay. Well, that's something to look forward to. We'll look at Holly's team first. You are sonless for the benefit of our podcast listeners. You've got, let's have a look at your team. You've got Henderson, Holgate, Lundstrom and Alexander-Arnold. Then De Bruyne still to go, Maddison, Salah, Mane, Calvert-Lewin, Vardy and Ings. And you're on 50 points, so well above average at the moment. Yeah, so tell us a bit about your game week before we move on.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good game week for me with the winter break. I know it's been a long one. I've had some very good Saturdays. I've not had anyone play since this Saturday just gone. So the size of my green arrow has slowly diminished, but I'm still on a green arrow for now. So I'm hopeful and I've got to be happy. I played Lundstrom and I was gutted to see him on the bench, but so good to see him come on and get his goal. Calvert-Lewin, I think he's got to be a hold for me now after another big points haul. And I finally got some points from Danny Ings. It's been a long time coming. I've not owned Danny Ings in FPL before and I brought him in a few weeks ago. He's been benched, he's had limited minutes and then finally pops up with a goal. So very happy with that. It's a shame about the Salah captain blank, but at least Mane repaid the faith.
Yeah, you hung on to Mane. That's nice. Really nice.
So fingers crossed, I can keep on moving up.
It's a good, you can't argue with a Liverpool triple up, whatever it may be. And yeah, that's a good one as well. Because I know as well, it's interesting with Salah and Mane, they both don't tend to haul at the same time. They're not too hot on assisting each other. But if you've got both, you're probably going to get a double-digit haul somewhere from them. It's just a question of which one. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good set of scores. But as you got just behind, 49. So for the benefit, again, of those listening on the podcast, you've got McCarthy in goal, Alexander-Arnold, Luca Dean, Lundstrom, and then you've got Salah, De Bruyne, Martial, Grealish, Vardy, Firmino and Ings up top. Yeah, so tell us a bit about your game week.
And I pipped you by 1 point. My non-wildcard team pipped your wildcard team by 1 point. Thanks to Martial yesterday in the game that I don't think anyone expected him to get any points in, and he was awful pretty much the entire match, but scored a great header. And that was my big decision really, was who to bench, because I was sort of debating between Martial, Grealish and Traore. And every time I've benched Traore, I've got it wrong. He's always scored big, but I thought, I don't know why. I just fancied Martial in that game against Chelsea. They've been a bit on the ropes, and Torreira didn't play for like 20 minutes. So in the end, it was a good decision. I can't be too cocky about Lundstrom. I don't think Holly can be either. I think we're just grateful.
Yeah,
he came.
that's exactly the word.
I know. I mean, I kind of knew he'd be benched, because why would they change a team that won before? I was hoping that they'd be struggling and he might come on and have a point to prove, and that's what he did. But yeah, to get 7 points from a defender who comes on at 60 minutes is pretty amazing. I mean, a decent game week, points in a few different positions for my team, and 2 free transfers going into next week, so not bad.
I mean, although Bolly is in your bench, and he was on my bench as well, but it's good to see him there. He's all primed up, ready for Wolves' good fixtures that are coming. So here's my team. Yeah, I got 48, and yes, I have just wildcarded. I wildcarded into this, and I'm very pleased, even though I've only got 48 points. Because sometimes you wildcard, and then that immediate week you wildcard, the thing happens that you don't want. So where was my Sheffield United clean sheet? Where was my Southampton clean sheet? Where was my Salah haul as my captain? But luckily they'd get some points there from Alexander-Arnold and Son. And of course Danny Ings was back in. Jimenez, very frustrating, because he should have got a haul as well, but he didn't. And obviously I'm pleased with Grealish. So KDB to go. I'm quite happy with that, and much better than my other team. But I understand, as we mentioned, that you have some kind of dossier or library or something like that on my wildcard last week. So fire away.
I can't believe how positive you are about it. And I couldn't believe you on the site yesterday saying it's a 10 out of 10 wildcard. This is not a 10 out of 10 wildcard.
I tell you what, that was slightly tongue in cheek, because no wildcard can be assessed after 1 week. A wildcard's value is over many weeks.
Well, your wildcard's value is only going to diminish as the weeks go on, because you're going to get into a crucial part of the season and not have one. And these are the moves you made, okay? I'm just going to list these moves, right? So you did Foster, perfectly good goalkeeper, with a game in 28, to Henderson. And then you had some more money left over, so you upgraded your non-playing goalkeeper to McCarthy. Sideways, bang average.
Sideways? They did play for different teams. And one plays and one doesn't.
It's sideways in the sense that Foster is as good, probably a slightly less good goalkeeper than Henderson, but not enough to use a wildcard on. Lundstrom to O'Connell,
though, is not a sideways move from whoever it is that I had. Who was it? The non-playing one.
Yeah, but McCarthy isn't exactly going to get you double-digit hauls like every week, is he? Like,
never know.
I would have been perfectly happy with Foster going forward. Yeah. Lundstrom to O'Connell. Okay, you got rid of Lundstrom because he hasn't been playing. Fair enough. Target to Jack Stevens. Sideways. Rubbish player for rubbish player. Rico to Bolly. Okay, Bolly, half decent. But then you got rid of Soyuncu for Fernandez. So you basically did Soyuncu to Bolly, right?
These matchups, it's really weird. It's like, you got rid of Soyuncu for, let me think, who's the Newcastle one? Maybe I got rid of Soyuncu for someone else. Maybe I got rid of him for Bolly.
Like if you're doing like for like, Soyuncu for Bolly, around the same price.
No, I think Soyuncu would have been, and had been in my old template from the old wildcard, would have been a starter most weeks, really. He's like a default one, hope for the best. But Fernandez, I would say, is the Rico. I would say he's the Rico one, because he's third on the bench.
Yeah, switch around. So you did Lundstrom, Target, Rico and Soyuncu, to O'Connell, Stevens, Bolly and Fernandez. So average.
The problem.
The problem is that Soyuncu's as good as Bolly, Target's as good as Stevens, O'Connell's maybe a slight upgrade on Lundstrom, and Fernandez and Rico, who cares?
Well, that's not
a wild card exciting defence.
So here's what David was saying in his match report on Fantasy Football Scout about the Southampton-Burnley game. So the more secure option in Southampton's defence and the best performer in their backline continues to be Jack Stevens, 4.4 million. The former Plymouth Argyle man, that's because David's obsessed with Plymouth Argyle, was an important asset to the Saints at both ends of the pitch, heading a first half Buffal cross against the bar could have been a massive haul for Stevens, he's saying, as well as making some exciting, marauding runs forward. In the second half, Stevens could have won Southampton a penalty as he carried a ball forward into the Burnley penalty area, his cross cut out by the arm of Ben Mee, which was deemed by VAR not to be in an unnatural position.
But as it was, they conceded 2 goals at home to Burnley. You've got 1 point, and now you've got double Southampton defenders.
What you want from a player is you want to write up like that. Hey, this guy could have got loads of points, but he didn't because of VAR or hit the bar or something. But what you don't want is just nothing, just not mentioned. So that wouldn't have been so good.
I might bring him in.
What's that? You might bring him
Fold
in.
him for me.
Well,
yeah,
wildcard for him, Holly. Do what Joe did.
I mean, I must admit, obviously, I got rid of 11 players to get a 4.4 Southampton defender in. Hey, he's my enabler. But yeah, no, I'm pleased with that because we'll come to clean sheets later. Southampton have the potential of clean sheets, but as David's quite rightly pointed out, in some matches, particularly the tough ones, when the likes of Burnley are on fire, Stevens is quite handy to have.
Yeah, but this isn't wildcard worthy, Joe. This is like use a free transfer to do it if you believe in Stevens. And then midfield, you made 2 midfield transfers. You got rid of Dendoncker for Moy, the most boring sideways move I've ever seen, and you did Traore to Son. Okay, you took a punt on Son, it paid off.
I'll tell you what, in the live chat, it's not going well for this. Stoichkov why attack Joe? It was his decision. And
I'm attacking Joe because he gives so much stick to people when they wildcard and he doesn't agree with it.
And Ivan Fedorsov, I probably pronounced that slightly wrong. Jack Stevens is a good pick, he says. He almost scored a goal and his double points all in him.
So do a transfer for him.
Good pick, Joe, says Ivan.
You don't need to wildcard for him. Just take a transfer. Your team was fine. Your team was completely fine. You took 3 strikers out and bought 3 in. You did Vardy to Jimenez, Calvert-Lewin and Ings, and Haller to Firmino. If I were you, I would have just done 2 of them for a 4-point hit and saved your wildcard. You're going to struggle at the end of the season, Joe. I'm telling you, this wildcard isn't good enough.
I don't know. I'm such a half glass full, glass half full kind of guy.
You don't need to be.
So I'm optimistic. I've got players in with good fixtures and form. And, there's lots of reasons. So I've got a spine to my team. It's going to see me through to the end with transfers. Firmino and Son were actually my final 2 places. So while some people would have seen Son as like an ideal one to get in, I thought he was a good one to get in. But now he's injured, as we'll discuss. But he did get me 13 points. So a lovely hello and goodbye from Son in my team. But Firmino and Son were the 2 places. The last bit of this jigsaw of mayhem, as you would call it, was Aguero and I don't know who, some cheap midfielder who wasn't Grealish. But instead I went for Son and Firmino. Son, as we'll discuss, there are many options in midfield. I know you don't think so, but there are lots of interesting options in midfield. I
just think you did. I complained about your wild card when you did earlier in the season.
Said it was complain to the government.
I did complain. Took the wild
Boris
out of
Johnson,
wild
I want to complain about this.
Well, I do. I just think it's poor, and you're gonna pay the price later in the season.
So it's a bit.
That's my take on it.
Now it's a bit different to my usual strategy, I will admit. But my team,
because you're normally good.
It needed a major refresh. My team was absolutely pants. So I put this wildcard up with some other luminaries last week with Karam and Tom on, and the consensus was that it was fine. It was good. It was a good one. But not so. Tougher crowd this week, maybe.
You only made 1 midfield transfer, really. You kept all your midfielders. How can it be worth a wildcard if you keep all of your midfielders apart from Traore?
No, Dendoncker won't remember.
Yeah, well, I'm not even counting. I'm not even counting that in the list.
You're not counting the rubbish players that I got out.
Dendoncker to Moy.
Come on. Got to have a bit of Aaron Moy in your side.
Come on.
The reason is so with the wildcard, there's certain rules and regulations with it, and one is I always like to be able to run from a player. I can run from all of them. Now Hayden from Newcastle as a really mega cheap 5th midfielder was an option, but I felt I couldn't run from him, and obviously I can't run from Chowdhury, Chowdhury Deep, famously. I can't run from him, and that's why I got Fernandes in as well, because he's getting bonus whenever they do get clean sheets, and Newcastle have a lot of possibility of getting clean sheets in the coming fixtures, and he tends to get bonus there. And also I can downgrade him. There are options. Quite like the look of Charlie Taylor as well from Burnley. So I've actually...
Yeah, but you're talking about like 4.2 million defenders, Joe. Like you should be talking about all your big. There's not a big enough pool of players to wildcard at this stage of the season.
I know
like, there's just not. You've got no information about blanks, double game weeks. Like you've unarmed yourself, and you're going into the crucial part of the season without your most powerful weapon. You're gonna suffer. You're gonna suffer.
Okay. I've still got my mighty free hit chip and my bench boost.
And you got rid of Calvert-Lewin before you had a home game against Palace. Come on.
I know. Out of all the players I wildcarded out, the only one really who had a good fixture, who was thought, he's the one that could, he could make me regret.
You could have done Vardy and Haller to Jimenez and Ings, and your team would have been absolutely fine this week.
I wanted a refresh. I basically had this team since like September. I was bored of it. I wasn't moving anywhere in the rankings. I was like going from like 50,000 to 70 or 80,000 and just bouncing around like a bouncy ball thing. It was just really boring. I really like my troops now. And as we discussed with Son, I'm considering some vaguely interesting players for that as well. I mean, as has had his say on my wildcard. Holly, are you? Is this going to be one of the moment like Granville or something?
Yeah, Team Joe or Team Az, Holly.
You're going to roll your sleeves up and go, right. But what do you think of my wildcard?
Well, I was a little bit pessimistic from the start because I did go bold and said that I fancied wildcarding for 26, but it just didn't feel like the right time with it being a winter break. And you assured me it was a good time. And I don't think anyone was particularly stung by injuries in the end, but it's like you've only got half the information for the rest of the season, which would be my worry. And I feel like you were maverick going for the winter break wild card and then went with the dullard picks. You tried to be maverick, but ended up a dullard.
It's because there isn't any maverick picks because everyone's rubbish at the moment.
I think they're all safe.
There's not enough. The pool's not big enough.
I mean, there is another reason I wildcarded. I did and ah about saying this, but because it influences everything I've done this season in FPL, but also just in general in my life. And it's medical of what happened to me last season. So I had this stroke last season, and I was essentially out of action for about a month. I couldn't do anything. So obviously the major things of life, but also in FPL terms, I just couldn't do anything. And I pretty much found out, what happened to me, and there is a probability that it could happen again. It's something, a developmental to do with my brain. I won't bore you with the science behind it, but it could happen again. And it's in a place in my brain that is quite dangerous, and it could I could hopefully end up the same, as in like, a month out. It could be much worse, horrendous.
Joe, are you saying this just to make me feel terrible about selecting your wildcard for the last 10 minutes?
Because this explains. So basically every season I would wildcard around a double game week 34 or whatever. That's just the way it is. But this season I've decided to do something different. So the main reason, obviously, my team was in tatters. But what is driving a lot of my decisions this season is the need, basically, to ensure that I have a team that I can, live with for a month, basically, if that happens again. And I know that's sort of a crazy thing when anyone's been ill or anything like that, or been in a road accident or something like that. And so I just kind of do that with everything. So I do it with other work as well at the moment. At the end of each day, I email something, and if it's like a feature or something that's very long, I'll email it to my partner just in case there's I have another stroke, and then it can be emailed on, and so I don't have things like that hanging over me, important things for other people. And FPL is an important thing, so something to keep me going. I want to have a team.
But your team was fine. Your team was fine. This is my point. You had a team that could have got through a month or a period. It was with a couple of moves, you were fine. I just think. Yeah. You just didn't need the wildcard.
No, it was awful.
And you haven't done anything exciting with it anyway, so I'm not having that as an excuse.
Well, you're a cruel man. But the likes of.
But it's very good to have you back, Joe.
Yeah,
I have to say.
For example,
I'm glad.
Like Lundstrom,
Glad to have you here.
Lundstrom, for example. I don't want to. I don't want to be in hospital and know that Lundstrom may or may not start. I want to be safe in the knowledge that Jack Stevens will go marauding down the pitch.
If you're in your hospital bed thinking about Jack Stevens, Joe, you've got
this is the weird thing.
You've got bigger problems.
But the thing is, when you are in hospital, it's a boring. It's not a. I'm not saying it's not like prison or something, but it's nice people work this stuff. But it's boring as hell, and so yeah, your mind does think about these things, and I'm still rankled that I couldn't use my triple captaincy chip last season on Mane, and I had to use it like a few weeks later when I could actually see.
At least you got to do it this year, though.
I've got to do it this year. I mean, it failed. Blooming Mane ended up getting injured like I did, but I transferred my injury onto Mane, which is annoying.
That was unlucky.
But the reason I bring that up, and I was hesitant to do it, but it does explain some of the decisions I've been making this, because I remember an earlier Scoutcast you were saying, I don't recognise you anymore. What's this move you've just done? And things like that. And that's because I'm doing it because I want to use it now because that's it, to set my team up as well. And also, I don't know whether I better use it again this season. So who knows? It's just one of these things. These are the things that go through the mind of people, that kind of thing. But one of the issues with my team is Son. So speaking of injuries and hospital, he's having a bit of surgery himself with his arm, and lots of people have been thinking about replacements, and I know I am. So I'm going to put a little picture of him up. So because the initial picture that Andy supplied kindly for the thumbnail is of Son looking really happy, but obviously times have changed. So his picture, Son's long-term injury. Long-term arm fracture injury. What does it mean for FPL? That is the article that went out by David today on site. Do have a look at that. And also, I was contacted on Twitter by Gordon Kelly, which is it's a very sad tweet here that he got him in last night. So he got Son in last night, and he wakes up to find he's injured today. And guess the last time he got him in? Yeah, his red card. That was the last time I'd got him in as well, to be honest. And FPL Plod, and this is something that I mentioned before we went on air, McAllister, Brighton's new number 10, ultimate differential. No one knows about him. He's from Brighton. He's actually from Boca Juniors. And we've been waiting to get a work permit for him. He's been great for Boca Juniors, but we managed to get him back, and he could be a really ultimate differential. I just highlight that as just slightly absurd pick perhaps, but yeah, someone's pretty maverick, and he's a player not even listed yet. Brighton's McAllister.
It's too maverick to even get
that's
in.
Too maverick.
He's not on the game.
So simple question. Son is out. Neither of your teams. You probably may have been considering getting him in, but someone like me got Son. Who are the best replacements? So Holly, let's go for you first. Who do you reckon? Who should replace Son if you have him?
Well, Dele Alli could be an interesting one, couldn't he? Because obviously Mourinho's without a striker now, and is he going to play with a false nine potentially with Ali up top? And I did see a tweet earlier that Spurs have played 2 games without Kane or Son over the last few seasons, and Ali has been one of the goal scorers. I feel like if you were looking to stay within Spurs, it would have to be between Ali or Lucas Moura. And I do think Ali would be the superior player to go for, although I don't know if it's the right decision to stay within Spurs, because it's hard to predict how Mourinho's going to line up now, because he could go for more of a defensive setup and hope to grab goals here and there rather than going gung-ho all-out attack like he did against Aston Villa.
Don't know, decisions. Az, what do you think? Son? Out for who?
I can't believe I'm about to say the player who I'm about to say.
McAllister from Boca Juniors in Brighton.
Yeah, when he gets added, he's the one.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think there is so few midfielders that are good at the moment. It's a really, really tough decision. I think if you've got Salah and you've got you've got Firmino and you've got Trent, obviously, then I think you could potentially look at doing Firmino and Son out for Mane and a striker, because there's actually quite a few strikers knocking about. So if you don't have Jimenez, if you don't have Ings, if you don't have Calvert-Lewin, there's lots of players around the mark, so you can free up some funds and get Mane in sort of relatively easily. So that would probably be the decision that I made. If you didn't want to do that, then I think the only sort of premium player who might be worth a look in, and I can't believe I'm about to say his name, is Pepe.
I knew he was going to say Pepe.
And I mean, am I just saying that because he just got 17 points against Newcastle? Probably.
Certainly turns a guy's head, though, doesn't it?
It
17
does, but
points.
you know, he's 9 million, and he's got potential. Like, you know, he's 70 million pounds worth of player who might be unlocked by Arteta now. He hasn't got the game in 28, which is an issue, but in an absence of other players in the price bracket, and in the absence of players who can really hit those big hauls, an Arsenal player with some confidence, with some decent fixtures apart from the blank, could be a good option. So he's a bit of a punt. I think Mane is the safer play to pair with Salah if you don't have him. But I would probably be looking at Pepe if I wanted someone a bit exciting.
No, but I know,
other than that,
I know before we came on air, Holly, myself and Holly were talking about Arsenal midfielders, but neither of us were that keen on Pepe, just because rotation is the issue with me. But yeah, what did you think of Pepe, Holly?
Well, I've just seen so many shots squandered in the early parts of the season. I think by about game week 10, his goal conversion rate was the worst of any player in the entire league of not managing to score. I think Aubameyang let him have a penalty just to try and cheer him up a bit. So he's not a player that I trust at the moment.
No, he shows flashes of brilliance though. Like, was it in the Europa League when he scored 2 free kicks? I think. You know, he's got 2 double-digit hauls. He's playing a little bit more regularly now, so he's had 4 starts in the last 5 games. He's a punt. I mean, I'm not denying that, but he could potentially be an exciting one.
In the live chat, we've had a few people talking about it already. General Zod has mentioned that Son to Ali is obviously a move, but it's this season's Richarlison to Walcott. Remember last season, Everton guy out, let's get the other Everton guy in. Ooh, Son's out, let's get the other Spurs guy in. And I still know what he feels there. But nevertheless, Romolo points out that super sexy Dele Alli, which of course he becomes.
Do you think Spurs are going to score any goals?
I don't know. I don't know where the goals can go for. I think Mourinho's going to go ultra defensive. If Lo Celso plays, they've got some creativity there. More, I don't think any of them are really a number 9, but more a can do a job maybe. And Ali, I guess, could be a full.
They're going to really struggle, I think.
I don't know.
I just don't
Chelsea
know. And Spurs, Chelsea and Wolves next.
Rishi in the live chat says Bruno, and so that brings me on to my answer to this. So I've got 3. I'm a Son owner. I've got 3 options. One is to do absolutely nothing. He's already gone up in price, but only 1.1. So I'm not going to lose value on him. I can sit tight with Son for a while. I could do nothing and then play Moy or have a Sheffield defensive double up, which is tempting, and then just leave it a week and see where we go. That could be a long-term option there. So I'm just not sure about that. I saw Harvey Barnes is a possibility, downgrade there, but I don't want him for this current fixture against Man City, but afterwards let's have a nice run. And Barnes is it's funny, the thing with Vardy is there's 2 problems with Vardy at the moment, and this is a slight tangent onto why Harvey Barnes is a good option. But Vardy at the moment is hampered in general, unless when Ndidi's out, because he is breaking up the play and starting the attacking form, as Kante has done, as Leicester defensive midfielders have always done well. So when their top man's out, it's difficult. But at the same time, the other Leicester attackers are getting a bit more cocky and they're not passing to Jamie Vardy anymore when he's in the box, having to go themselves. And that's why the likes of Harvey Barnes are starting to become much better options than Vardy, potentially. But it's good to keep our options open. But I'm quite tempted to make a move. So I'm thinking of getting Bruno Fernandes in from Manchester United. I've just got him in Son. I've already got some nice points out of him at the start of the week. I've watched passing the eye test. It's really weird watching a player from Manchester United who isn't Rashford and is good, and so he obviously stands out. Bit of a sore thumb there. It's like, hey, who's that good guy in Manchester United's lineup? And he's on all set pieces. He hit the post with his free kick. His corner delivery was good. Finally,
well, Fred was taking the corners at the start, wasn't he?
Yeah,
and I was watching it, just like, why is Fred taking these?
And then Fernandes just took over.
Ridiculous.
And what happened? instant goal onto Maguire's head. So, and his delivery looks great. He just looks good, and I think he's an interesting player. I think they got a couple of nice games. Everton's defence is not great, and Watford's they're having to attack more because they need to get points. They can't really sit back and go, oh, let's get a 0-0. They've got to be getting 3 points in games. They've got to go for it, whoever the opposition is. I quite like the look of him, and I don't know, he's good. He's a good. Son is a good price. People go, oh, he's not such a good price, but he is a good price because you can get loads of other midfielders. You go right the way down to Harvey Barnes, or you get Fernandes. Pepe, I sort of would like if I thought he would start and be good, but I'm not sure those things are. But I've got some stats for those thinking of this highlight. So looking at goal attempts, last 4 game weeks, Salah's at the top. So if you've got Salah, get him, obviously. Son is second. That proves how good he is. 18 goal attempts last 4 game weeks. Oh, it's such a sad loss for the game. And then you've got Grealish. If you don't have Grealish, forget that he's got a blank. And forget the fixtures are awful. Just get him in. He's really good. And then De Bruyne. These are just familiar names. Martial is an option still if Fernandes' delivery is good. So you've got Martial. It's actually an option. Okay, this is starting to get Maverick stakes now. Harry Wilson at Bournemouth. We're going to talk about relegation scrappers.
See how far you fall,
yeah.
so quickly.
11 goal attempts. 1, 2, 3, 4,
He's got
5,
a fixture
6.
in Gameweek 31.
He's the sixth.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets.
He's the 6th best player for shots over the last 4 game weeks. There we go. And then Harvey Barnes is 1 behind, the 7th best player for shots. So he's a good option. And then Moy is equal to Barnes. So this is what people wonder why I've got Aaron Moy in my wildcard team, but because he's quite good and he's cheap. And then there's Super Sexy Dali Ali with 10 goal attempts as well over the last 4 game weeks. And then Armstrong at Southampton is another intriguing option. So I think there's lots of options there. And they're all come with a Maverick risk differential, who knows. But for me as a dullard, I like Fernandes is the fact that he's on all these set pieces because, when it comes down to it, the guy who delivers the corners and free kicks is more likely to get points if he does it well. But
unless Fred takes them.
Unless Fred takes them. I don't want Fred near my team. I'm not that boring.
Surely Fernandes has bullied him off the set play.
You would have thought so.
Yeah, he looks.
Get an assist.
He looks like he's got some words in him.
When you've seen Harry Kane take corners, though, anything's possible.
I know. Son was taking them as well, I noticed, for Spurs. So that was another feather in his cap. He's such a loss because he was such a brilliant differential. I mean, I went up 20,000 places with Son's haul, just like that. And that's the difference having a low owned good player like Son has. But
I must admit, when he scored that goal in the last minute against Villa, I was happy when he missed the penalty, and then he got the rebound. I thought, okay, he's going to get a decent haul here, and then he got the 13 points was it, or 12 points or something. And I thought, I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to bring him in because he's going to get bought in by a lot of people now. Yeah. He's playing up front, he's got a lot going for him. I had no plan to get him in. I would have to have had a proper reshuffle to have got him in. So
something like a wild card, perhaps.
Something like a wild card. Well, I got 2 frees, so I could have done it for -4, Joe. Planning, you see, planning.
Oh, yeah. I just want to point out, just before we move on to the next subject, because we talked about some replacements quite a long time, but I just want to mention the last 2 matches. So I've really pinned down the stats last 2 matches. And top for goal attempts out of is in fact Armstrong again for Southampton. So I think if you're quite maverick, and Southampton have the fixtures, Armstrong could be an option.
Fixtures are great.
Fixtures are great, and he's top for goal attempts there. The last 2 matches. Out of available players. Grealish second with 8, level with Salah. St Maximin of Newcastle. This is getting maverick territory here, but
he's the ultimate.
But joint
pick
with the mighty Harry Wilson is Bruno Fernandes, 7 goal attempts. So last 2 matches, because obviously Fernandes only really got limited stats, limited appearances so far, but 7 corners, 7 goal attempts he's had. Minutes per chance, 1 every 25 minutes. Shots on target, 3. This is not bad stuff. I like this. I like what I see. Anyway, let's move on. What's the next subject we're talking about?
Oh, hold on a second. Sorry, I got so into that. Relegation scrappers.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned Armstrong, and my eyes just kind of glazed over. Right, relegation scrappers. So we talk about this. I think most seasons when it comes to sort of the the latter parts of the season, you start to think teams have got something to play for. Might have some good options in, and like Holly and I were saying before this came on, there's a lot of teams who could get relegated this year. So you've got to hope there's a lot of players who are playing for something. I mean, the absolute standout pick of any of the teams battling relegation has to be Grealish, just delivering points sort of most weeks. We've all got him, I think. Have you got him,
I've
Holly?
not got him. No.
Oh, he's good. He is
I
good.
know.
Ticks over, doesn't he, Joe?
Yeah, I've heard he's very good. Yeah.
Which is nice. So he's always a great pick. They Brighton and Watford, got goals in them. Both playing good football. Brighton, we shouldn't be where we are in the league, but we are. We're in a relegation battle, and I'm hoping Potter can keep us up. Watford are much improved side of Pearson. We all know that. Delafeu, Deeney, Sarr when he's back, all those players. Norwich, defensively at home, did really well against Liverpool. Not a team known for sort of defensive assets, but might start getting some options from them as the season comes to a close. And Bournemouth, I mean, after all the good work Hal's done over the last few years with Bournemouth, it'd be a shame if they got relegated. They got some good players. Have they got enough to survive? If they have, who's going to deliver the points? So we've had a few questions. Is there any value in picking up any of these players? Mike 1981 says, is there merit in focusing on key players, so talisman players like Grealish within relegation scrapping teams? Karen 14, what do we do with Grealish? He's got blank, really tough fixtures, but he's the main man in the team. So I think he's the ultimate test of this kind of talisman key man theory, because he has not got the fixtures to back up his form, to go with his form. So let's go to you, Joe. What do you reckon about these relegation scrappers? You've got Fernandez and Moy.
Yeah, I got
Moy's
Moy.
boys.
Yeah, I love a bit of that. So, these are obviously my, there's Gameweek 28 considerations and beyond why I have them. But, obviously, it's, planning, as you say. For this theory, I think we need to look back a bit in time to show that there's not too many options amongst the relegation scrappers. But if you can get one, great, because they're largely going to be ignored by most FPL managers, and they're going to probably be cheap as well, because they're obviously playing for a team that's not very good. Ones I like as well. So Grealish, obviously, 2 double-digit hauls since Game Week 21. Pookie at Norwich, 2 goals in his last 4. Let's not forget Pookie. Samatta for Villa is looking good. So if we think Grealish is going to get the assist, someone's got to get the goals. And Samatta's doing very well. Goal in he's only had 2 games. Callum Wilson. So I mentioned Harry Wilson as well, but Callum Wilson, 2 goals in his last 3 for Bournemouth. Very quietly, Callum Wilson is scoring again. Harry Wilson, 2 attacking returns in his last 3 matches. I've mentioned him. Aaron Moy, 4.8 million midfielder in my team. 2 double-digit hauls since Game Week 20. And looking quite good within that Brighton's team. And I looked at last season. So this shows that there's not a lot of them. Fulham, Huddersfield and Cardiff went down last season. But Brighton, Southampton and Burnley were all pretty much in the mix towards the end. In terms of inspected goal involvement, it shows that picking relegation gems can be tricky. So I looked at the top 10 in terms of expected goal involvement from essentially last season, from the week we're about to come up to Game Week 38, so the tail end of the season, and there was only one player from those relegated teams who was expected to score and assist lots of goals. So in that top 10, we have the likes of Aubameyang, Mane, Vardy, as you'd expect, Raul Jimenez and Salah. There's one player. Who is that player? Who do you reckon? Any guesses who that player could be?
From last year?
Last year, just one relegation scrapper made it into the top 10 of expected goal involvement stats for this period of the season.
I can't even remember who was getting relegated. Who was in the relegation
You can't remember.
Tell us the teams again.
Okay, so the teams are obviously Fulham, Huddersfield and Cardiff went down.
Yeah.
Brighton, Southampton and Burnley were also in the mix. So it's a player from one of them.
Is it someone who would ever guess, or is it just
Is it Ashley Barnes?
As I was lying in my hostel bed, one of the first moves I made when I could actually make a transfer was to get this guy in, and I think it was in Gameweek 38.
I can only think of Ashley Barnes.
And the reason I'm going to say it now, he's a big fan of the goals invent table. It's Nathan Redmond. He was super Nathan Redmond towards the end of the season. So it shows It shows two things. One, that player that you get in from a relegation team and get your points is from an unexpected source. It's not someone you're going to expect. The other thing is they're rare. So yeah, I've got Aaron Moore on my side, but he's just an enabler and he's good. He's good to play for those easy fixtures in blanks. But realistically, I think probably Jack Grealish will be your man. But it just shows, really. But, I mean, I mentioned... I just want to pay tribute to Unbelievable Jeff in the live chat, who wonders if we could stretch to Armstrong. And so I mentioned Armstrong earlier, and Armstrong is indeed... If we think that Nathan Redmond was the one, why not Armstrong? Southampton. Could be. Never know.
Yeah, I mean,
unexpected sources, but Southampton.
Redmond can do it. Anyone can do it, I think.
Exactly. I just highlight that just to show, it's really hard to pick. It's really hard to pick them. So I'm not going to go overboard on relegation teams. Put it that way.
What do you think, Holly? Any players in any of the relegation battling sides that you're thinking about?
Well, I do regret not owning Jack Grealish at all this season, and it's something that I wanted to address a couple of weeks ago, but then didn't feel like I could bring him in because of the blank game week 28. I was very tempted to play a wild card. I've lost track of game weeks because this one's been so long. I think I was looking at a wild card in 24. Grealish would have been in, and then Aston Villa obviously made it to the cup final, and I do think he's going to have a great end to the season. I know he's been carrying this side, and he's their biggest hope for staying up. And he's on a lot of the set pieces. Aston Villa do look a bit better now that Samatta's joined, and he's going to want to be fighting to be in this England starting 11 for the Euros, so he's got that to play for as well. And if Aston Villa do go down, I do think he's likely to be searching for a big money move somewhere else in the Premier League. So there's a lot of factors in play there, and he's someone that I'm definitely going to get in once I've played my wild card, whenever that may be.
Mm.
Yeah, he's by far the best player, I think, for many of these teams. The one player I like, who just to add to this, and he's a player I've liked for years, but never owned, but always wanted to own. And he doesn't fit. He hasn't fitted the kind of the mold of a decent FPL player. But it's Doucouré of Watford. So he's always been like, kind of defensive midfielder who can kind of burst into the box and might get a goal, but you'd be pretty lucky if he gets one. It looks like he's playing a slightly more advanced role now for Watford under Pearson. And, he's getting more touches in the penalty area. He's having a few more goal attempts. The goal he scored, was it this week or was it the week before? Yeah, he took it so confidently. He got the ball cut inside and sort of drilled it into the top corner. I really rate him as a player, and I think if Pearson is looking to unlock him in a more kind of advanced midfield role, he could, feature quite strongly. The only problem is Watford's fixtures: United, Liverpool, Leicester, in the next 4. They got sort of sandwiched in a couple of decent games, but yeah, I like Doucouré, so he's a potential one that.
Yeah, Watford's fixtures do get better, and you picked up on that with Doucouré. He is essentially playing in that number 10. He's always hovering around the penalty box now, and he is the Duke of unexpected returns. So yeah, I think he's a good one. God, I wish I had another wildcard left. I would definitely wildcard to get Doucouré in later, but unfortunately,
I've used Doucouré and it's sorted.
Well, it could be a Son replacement somewhere down the line. A few replacements down the line, that is. From relegation battlers, there's another team battling going on. Holly, who is the next team we're going to be talking about?
Well, the big news this week around Manchester City, banned from Europe as things stand for the next 2 seasons after breaching those financial fair play rules. As as we know, they are appealing through the Court of Arbitration for Sport. So let's see what happens there. But it could have a huge impact on the FPL season and also, the climate of football over the next few seasons. So if the ban stands or if it's even reduced to just 1 year, where does this leave Pep, Man City stars? Will they be less motivated, as you'd imagine, or will they be trying everything to win it this year to show Europe what they could be missing out on? So with that, we've got City's fixtures worsening and, plenty of alternatives from Liverpool, Spurs potentially as well. And, a lot to think about. So Benny Blanco has asked, choosing City players, if at all, is tough. They blank in 28, but they might have a double game week in 29. But then there's the financial fair play fallout. What do we do with City? And another couple of questions from Kiwi, Nick and Flinny. Should KDB owners be brave and swapping out now or upgrade to Mane or Salah if they don't own them already? So there's lots of questions there. I mean, for me, KDB was going to be my cash cow for making a few upgrades elsewhere, with the fact that he wasn't going to play in, a couple of the next 5 fixtures. And then now there's this potential talk of potentially a double game week on the horizon. It's just clouding everything. And, if they do end up with a double game week in 29, it's going to be even more difficult to know where to go, because it could be a tough double game week for them. It's Manchester United and then potentially Chelsea as well. And it makes it really difficult, especially if the Champions League is going well for them. What do you think, Az?
I think you can overcomplicate this, not you personally, but people can overcomplicate this game quite a lot. And I think De Bruyne is just going absolutely nowhere for my team. In a position of midfield where there's barely any options anyway, you've got a player playing for, the most attacking side in the league who has started every game but one, I think, this year. And, people are so worried about rotation in City. De Bruyne plays pretty much every game. So looking back on his minutes are pretty amazing. I think there's actually 2 games he didn't start, which is great. I mean, I do think there is going to be more rotation as the Champions League carries on going. They've got a really tough game though in their first match against Madrid, so they could easily get knocked out of that. Wouldn't be a massive surprise. Madrid are top of the Spanish league. Zidane knows how to win the Champions League, and Man City aren't playing that well. So if City get knocked out in that Champions League game, then suddenly there's no issue, because they're going to have to be focusing on the Premier League. I'd also be amazed if anything happens with this financial fair play thing. I think they're going to win this appeal, and there's not going to be any issues with it, because they're Man City and they can have afford the best lawyers and there'll be loopholes, and I don't even think the people who are like monitoring financial fair play understand financial fair play. So how they're going to try and pin this and say that Man City have broken all these regulations and try and get this ban? I think there's some bad blood between UEFA and City, and they're just clamping down on them, or trying to clamp down on them. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if it all gets swept under the rug and put away. That's just complete conjecture, though. Obviously, I don't understand financial fair play, but until I see some concrete information that they've lost the appeal and that they'll be banned for 2 years, and I start seeing players leaving, and then I'm just not going to worry about it, because I think there's just as much chance they'll win the appeal as they'll lose it.
Yeah, my gut feel is that, this 2-year ban as it stands at the moment, I could see it going to a 1-year ban, which will have less of an impact. But how it all shakes out in terms of the rest of the league, and does fifth place get a buy into the Champions League now? And, are the teams that are down going to qualify for the Europa League? There's a lot up in the air, isn't there? And it does make it really difficult to predict what's going to happen. And I think it helps us as fantasy managers, the fact that the big Champions League game away at Real Madrid is coming up first, because that's going to give us a pretty good indicator going into 28 and 29 as to how City's approach to the end of the season is going to pan out. Because if they don't manage to get an away goal at Real Madrid, then their Champions League hopes are basically gone in the first leg of the game. Where are you thinking, Joe?
Well, I mean, luckily, I like a sort of a flexible game, so I like to think, anything could happen, kind of thing. So I think that's the same with Man City. I mean, obviously, it sounds really silly. Watch the news, but really pay attention to the news, what's happening here. So you mentioned the Court of Arbitration has bought as well, so we're looking at that. That's going to take months. So they've got a 2-year ban from Europe in place from next season. So that Court of Arbitration, that could filter into the start of next season. So maybe, they'll just get a year. Maybe they will get a 2-year ban. But will it happen next year? Will it be pending the decision of that Court of Arbitration? There's lots of ifs and buts. Yes, they have got the money for the legal team, certainly. And yes, there is bad blood between UEFA and Man City. So will that transpire to something? We don't know. Pep has already come out this week and said that he's committed to his contract, which runs out the end of 2021. And he says, wherever we are, League Two, wherever I'm committed to Man City. Apparently his agent came out today saying that Pep Guardiola sticks to his contracts. He sees them out. So we've got commitments there. Obviously this is football. Who knows, whether a promise is a promise, but nevertheless, that's what he's doing. There's the other option of sanctions as well. So the Premier League could sanction them. It could strip them of their league title. In the past, they could, who knows, they could get them points. They could get relegated to League One, League Two. Who knows? Lots of weird things could happen. Lots of
from an FPL perspective, none of this really matters, though, does it? All that matters is their heads are in the right place, and they're not going to leave in the summer.
Exactly, and that's the knock-on effect for FPL managers. Watch the news, you get all of that in, but don't bog yourself down with it all. That's for that's up you like. Really interesting. What you need to know is their heads. So one of the key things the FPL managers can do is watch them against West Ham. They should absolutely hammer West Ham defence. Have a look at the players, have a look at the team, have a look at their mentality. Will they just score and just trudge off the pitch at the end and go, well, who cares? Are their agents badgering them to go on about, are they talking about money deals? Will they get the same money deals and sponsorship if they're in Europe next season or not in Europe? All of these things are going through players' minds and stuff. Meanwhile, you've got lots and lots of teams in Europe and agents circling as they always are. So you've got the likes, all the Italian sides, who are just hoovering up Premier League players at the moment. You've got PSG, you've got the German clubs, who knows, there's lots of clubs, and of course Premier League rivals. So I'll be looking at that. I'll be looking at body language, things like that in terms of Man City. I'll also be looking at lineups as well. So let's have a look at their schedule. So 19th of February they've got West Ham, that's tomorrow. So if you're listening to that afterwards, let's just assume they won, and assume that you've had a look at their body language. And then they play Leicester at the weekend, not great. And then they've got Real Madrid. So the Real Madrid game is the Wednesday after the Saturday. Then they've got the League Cup final against Villa. And then a few days after that, they've got their 5th round tie with Sheffield Wednesday. That City could go out to Sheffield Wednesday because it's just after they've done the League Cup final. Are they going to be fielding a strong side against Sheffield Wednesday? Arguably, their B side is a far stronger side than Sheffield Wednesday. But where their head's going to be at? What's their motivation to go further into the FA Cup? Gameweek 29, they've got Manchester United, Sunday the 8th of March. And then they've got Burnley. So you would imagine their strongest side will play Manchester United. This is where Burnley, they're home to Burnley. If you've got Manchester City assets, are they going to play? Is like Foden going to get a run out? You would hope that De Bruyne is going to be safe. But basically, so you've got Saturday 14th of March, Burnley, and then Tuesday the 17th of March. What's that, 2 and a bit days? Really? Champions League, last 16, Real Madrid. And then Saturday 21st of March, Chelsea afterwards. So you've got lots and lots of tight games there. And even the really easy on paper games are like sandwiched between really good times as well. What's the moral? The moral goes back to what you just said about KDB. Basically, I'm going to play this. I'm going to have KDB. And if I hear they've got a double game week, I'm still not going to go mental on them, but I might get Laporte in. But I'm not sure who's going to play up front. KDB for me, bust. That's why I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so safe.
Yeah, I think the only other option is if Laporte is back, then you could potentially look at Edison, but it's a lot of money in your goalkeeper spot, isn't it? And like you said, even between that Manchester United and Burnley game, they could have another fixture in there, and the Chelsea fixture could then get postponed for the next round of the FA Cup if they do progress. So it could be even worse than what we can see right now.
I mean, I don't think at this stage a double game week for Man City is not a double game week because you've got no idea who's going to play. So it's almost like null and void. It's just get them in if it's a good fixture and you think they're going to play one of those matches. But we've had it before. This is Leroy Sané. How many of us triple captained him last season? He didn't even show. He showed up for like half a game or something.
Gutting.
Yeah, it's gutting. Let's move on. The talking point we're looking at is ways to improve FPL. And the reason I'm saying this, I'm not. It's not to put down FPL. It's a wonderful game we all love. But just ways that we could possibly improve it. And I think we're experiencing a possible way that it could be improved this week. So basically, the way this is, I've got an idea for how FPL can be improved next season. So I'll put it to both of you, but also I'll find out ways that you think the game could be tweaked and perhaps improved for next season. So this is my idea. So basically, I want to get rid this. They've got to adapt to this winter break because this is too long a period. You've got no international football in between. You've got nothing. So no one's touching their team at the moment. So in the Sky game, different format, but nevertheless, Sky game made the game weeks 2 short weekends worth of winter break fixtures. So you essentially had 2 blank game weeks. Wouldn't that have been good in FPL? So instead, we'd be looking at tweaking out. We'd have 2 blank game weeks, which we have to plan for and have strategy around. But then also we can go into the site and actually change our team. But we talked about my wildcard earlier. I forgot I'd even played it because it was so long ago. It's like an eternity ago. So basically, the last time we made a change to our FPL team was back on Saturday, February the 8th. The next time will be Saturday, February the 22nd. That's too long. It's just too long.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So the way I look at it, so my suggestion is retain the 38 game weeks, reduce this Christmas schedule by 1, and then you can move to this one, so you have an extra one this week. So you can have 2 smaller blank game weeks. So do we really need 3 game week deadlines in the space of 7 days? So that's Boxing Day to New Year's Day, if you remember that. There's 3 game weeks were going on. Do we really need 3? One of them could be a double game week. Wouldn't that be exciting as well? So you've got a double game week there, and you don't have to study the fixtures. It's just we're going to have a double game week then. That's just the way the game is. And you're going to have 2 blank game weeks coming up in February. That's good for all managers because everyone's going to be looking at their team. They're going to be logging into the FPL website. Everyone's going to be doing that. And also for the engaged managers like us, we're going to be really interested in that as well because we've got lots of strategy around that. And it's just all very interesting. And it keeps within that game week 38 schedule as well. I just think it adds another layer of strategy. And then going alongside that, so bear with me on this theory here, is double your chips. We have a wild card before January the 1st. We have a wild card after January the 1st. Why not have all the chips before January the 1st? All the chips afterwards. Your bench boost, your free hit, your wild card, your triple captain, boom. Got to use it by January the 1st.
I can't understand why that isn't the thing. Like when there used to be 1 wild card, now there's 2.
And then January the 1st, you get another lot. So you've got those chips to help you around that double game week, which is going to happen around Christmas. And then you've also got more chips to deal with that. And what do chips mean? They mean points. They mean interests. They mean strategy. They mean people who are engaged, unengaged, whoever. It's something for everyone.
It also keeps people engaged who might not who are just starting out and don't fully understand it. It might use their chip in the first week because they don't really get what's going on with it. And then rather than just giving up because they've lost a chip, it keeps them interested because they know they're going to get them refreshed back in. It literally would suit everyone. Like the experienced players planning around single game weeks, it would suit new players. Like I can't.
3 game weeks from Boxing Day to New Year's Day.
Yeah.
I know there's 3 sets of fixtures, but we need 3 game weeks. Why not make one a double? And then we can all have our Christmas pudding instead. Well, Holly, what do you think about this idea?
Well, I do agree that the winter break hasn't been a successful one, and I think the storm and the postponement hasn't helped things either. I do think that it was probably best to leave it as a single weekend of games as we're used to, and then having a blanket of holiday time for these Premier League sides. And I think it's all to do with generating as much cash for the Premier League as possible. They've spread it over 2 weekends, and I do think that over one weekend would be more sensible. I do like what you're proposing, but I do think that FPL is a very mainstream game that's trying to appeal to a lot of people. And the fact that, you know, you could have a double game week in December and then 2 blanks in February will be too confusing for a less engaged manager. But I do like the idea of the chips, getting double your money on the chips, because I mean, traditionally the second wild card was available for the January transfer window. And then they changed the wild card as they introduced the 3 chips, so that it just gave more strategies. So it could make sense to double up on all of the chips. And then I think it will make managers, you know, understand a little bit more about how to use them and how to deploy them.
Also, yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, you know, as an engaged manager, more chips basically means more element of luck into the game, luck and bad luck, which is in a way bad for engaged managers, you know, because you like to use your skill and your strategy there. So, you know, that does play into the hands of the less engaged manager, because so they can think, oh, I'll get more. Because basically it's just point. It's basically it's FPL getting people to look at the website, which is great. So they're engaging with their team, which is great for them, and it's great for all managers. But I also like I like the idea of these 2 chips, because I mean, I've used my wildcard differently this season, but you know, how many times have I used it the other way? And you know, and it's nice to mix it up a bit, and it's nice as well, I think, to have. I think I would love to use some of these chips like in November or something, or December. Yeah. But I'm stopped.
That's probably everyone waits until like game week 34 or 35 every year.
Yeah, and you know, it'd be nice to do something a bit different too. And we're also missing out on some opportunities. You know, so there could be some really good games coming up, and of course we've got this in my head, double game week. Around Christmas, but I don't know, that's what's my idea of it. So I don't know about either of you two. You got any other ideas about how FPL might be tweaked for next season? So yeah, Holly, go for you first. Any other ideas?
Well, the first thing I would do is scrap the triple captainship, because I've had 0 luck with it. It seems absolutely pointless to me. So I think that could go. I don't think it's necessary. I think that could just be my personal opinion now. One thing I do like about the Sky game is that it gives you opportunity to select the defensive midfielders, and I feel like that's a position that is under-celebrated in FPL at the moment, and it would be great to see that dynamic enter the game. I think that's the big thing that I would like to see. The other thing with captaincy, also something from the Sky game, I think it would be great if you could change your captain from one day to the next. And I think that would really benefit us more engaged managers in that format as well. So they would be my suggestions for FPL.
No, good. Basically, I think any idea which results in more points is going to be popular. So if there's more points for those players that are just being ignored a bit, it's interesting because I played the Sky game. I mean, it's a different format, and I don't think obviously all elements of the Sky game should be adopted by FPL, but there are some elements, and I like the fact that there are some players in that. Jordan Henderson is an absolute dreamboat in Sky, but I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole in FPL. And Harry Arter is a legend in the past in the Sky game, but you know, obviously a no-go in FPL in seasons past. I do like that. I like that idea a lot. What about you, Az? Any ideas for?
Yeah, so I disagree a little bit with that, because one of the main reasons I don't play the Sky game is because I find it a little bit too complicated. And I like the simplicity that FPL brings. And I like the fact that when I'm down the pub with some friends, we can talk about FPL, because we're not talking about tackles and not talking about, you know, chances created and all this kind of stuff. We're just talking who got the assist, who got the goal, did my defender get a clean sheet. I like that simplicity. And I think that's why FPL is so successful, because it brings that simplicity, you know, into it. That said, VAR stripped away goals. And I think it would be nice if FPL started adding more points in to things. So I don't think it's perfect the way it is. With some of the ideas I wrote down, I think winning a penalty should get you points, whether it's converted or not. Feel free to agree or disagree. I think it should be 2 saves for a point for keepers to make them a bit more attractive rather than 3. I hate that you lose BPS for shots off target and things. I think they should scrap anything that reduces the BPS. Players should be encouraged to shoot. I mean, I say encouraged to shoot. It's not like they're looking at their FPL bonus points and going, "Oh, I should really not be shooting when in that situation." But players that shoot a lot are good for FPL. You shouldn't be taking away bonus points for that kind of thing. I hate the triple captain chip, like Holly said. I think a better chip would be double captain, so captain and vice captain both get double points rather than triple for one player. But I also hate the vice captain chip, not the chip. So I hate vice captains in general. Bin that off. Hate it with all my heart. Lucky jammy points from people with vice captains is the worst. But the main one, and I think probably the easiest one for FPL to implement that literally wouldn't annoy anyone and would just make the game a lot better, would be ways of making sort of keeping people more engaged. And they have the manager of the week and manager of the month and this kind of stuff, and yet you look at the person with the biggest points and they've taken 70 points worth of hits, or they've created a team literally for 1 week or 2 weeks. I just can't understand why they haven't got more strict criteria around who can qualify for that.
And also the cup is like,
and the cup, that's my other point as well.
Who cares? Who cares about it, to be honest?
The cup is ridiculous as well, because you get so many inactive managers playing it. If everyone was active and played it, it'd be more exciting.
I celebrate if I'm against an active manager rather
it would
than
be
winning.
so easy. It would be so easy to fix that. All they'd have to do is add a click to enter button.
Well, they should
click to enter the cup, and then if you click it, you're clearly active because you're checking your team, and then you're in the draw.
So already what you've got is people shouldn't have multiple teams. Already you've got people with multiple teams. They're doing it pretty much almost every game week to get the highest game week score. They made, as you said, 70 transfers. In Sky, you get two teams. You get a maximum of 2 teams. So people love it because people aren't. Your maverick tendencies can be in one, and your dullard tendencies another, or however else you want to play it. But why not get rid of the cup and maybe allow people to have 2 teams, or and this is another way of doing it, is really have like a sort of a January 1st, second half of the season league. Really push that, really promote that. You can set up your own team. So if you're like around the 2 million mark at Christmas, you just had enough. 44% of managers have given up. What a way to get those 44%, not all of them, but get a big chunk of those 44% not to give up by saying, right, January the 1st, you have your second team in this league. It's just January to May, that's what you've got. So you can aim for that and have prizes for that as well.
I don't think you need a second team for that though. Like in a league I'm in a cash league, we run a second half of the season competition, and it works as like a kind of cup tournament. There should be more. The trouble with the cup is that it's over such a long period of time with so many millions of managers that you're never going to win it. But why not have different cup tournaments for 100,000 people, 200,000 people, where it's actually possible to actually win it and get something out of it?
And you're playing zombie teams most weeks. So what? You get to the semi-final. Yay, I've beaten some zombies.
It's just blind luck. It's blind luck because you're going to go against someone with like Lee Catamol in who hasn't played for 10 weeks and he scores like a rocket. And that is what everyone expects. That's not fun. That's not like an enjoyable, engaging way to play the game that we put so much time into. It should be against other people who are engaged and active in the game and want to get involved in cup tournaments and want to play these things, not just people who have set up a team in Game Week 1 and then forgotten about it. It'd be an easy fix. I don't know. I just don't understand why they don't do something.
I feel like the cup is somehow sort of, it's like almost like a relic of a game that no longer exists. But just let me get rid of it, and that frees up a lot of developer time. That frees up a lot of time within the site to talk about some of these other ideas.
See, I like the cup. I don't think it should be got rid of. I think it can be improved on. I think less managers and maybe multiple entries for the cup, like the Fantasy Football Scout Cup. That's fine. That we run, the members and the non-members is great. Twice a season, there's 4 cups to potentially enter. There's no reason why FPL
these are all engaged managers. Well, I mean, it may happen once, but I've never come up across a zombie team in
exactly.
And that's the main thing. It's just not very satisfying.
This way, if you click to enter the cup, then you're getting rid of any inactive managers. I don't know. There's some tweaks there. There's definitely tweaks around
those kinds of elements of the game as well. Just before we move on, because we've got loads of other things to just cram in before we finish, there was another idea that was put by David, and he was talking to Neil about it. We're talking about the classification of players. So this is another thing I play in the Sky game. Mane, Salah, Son, everyone, all forwards. Hardly any midfielders. But there are midfielders like Grealish, for example, KDB. So it's just a slightly different way of playing it. But David and Neil have been looking at classification issues, and so Mane is a midfielder. So if Mane was to remain a midfielder next season, then so should Aubameyang, and so should, and get this, Rashford. They've been using exactly the same position. So if Mane is a midfielder, Rashford and Aubameyang should be too, and there's no reason why they're not. So that's interesting. I don't know what either of you think about classification, whether certain players need changing, or Holly, what do you think?
Well, Rashford and Martial could just switch, couldn't they? Because that's where they've traditionally played this season. And I think it would be strange for me to see Aubameyang listed as a midfielder, but in the same way that Mane is listed as a midfielder, I think it's something that you'd have to look at adjusting, and it would make him more exciting in terms of being a fantasy asset if he was classified as a midfielder, because, Arsenal keep so many clean sheets, or not.
I don't know. I mean, there's always going to be rows about classification, but it's these anomalies that gets people, I think. It's like, hey, why is this? So, I mean, if you're going to make Rashford and Aubameyang forwards, make Mane a forward as well, and so on. I think it's just that consistency. But we can see this is to the detriment of the Sky game, for example, in that we're all scrabbling around to find midfielders. It's like Grealish is the second best midfielder in that game. So, because there ain't any. Az, what do you think?
Yeah, it's difficult, because I mean, the trouble is you make all these players strikers, and then you've got an even smaller pool of midfielders to pick from, and you end up going for players like Catamol and Henderson, and then you can't pick them, like Holly said, because they haven't got any benefit, because they don't get any points. So it is tricky, but the trouble is they dig a bit of a hole for themselves, I think, each year by doing some quite weird decisions with the positions they put players in. Like when they made Zaha a striker and then put him back again the next year, and yet Salah's been a midfielder every year, even though when he won the Golden Boot he was playing as a striker. They're quite inconsistent with the positions that they allocate to people. So I think it would be good if they had a better system around that. I was thinking earlier of ways they could do it. I mean, maybe something around a heat map. So if they look at the heat map for the season, it's past a certain point, then they class them as a forward or a midfielder or a defender, so at least it's based on a consistent kind of metric. I guess that's difficult though when you're bringing in players from new leagues. Yeah,
we're always going to get these rows, but there's definitely some anomalies that perhaps could be ironed out.
I think something like Salah. I think Salah should definitely have been classed as a forward after that first. I remember Mark as well. Yeah. When we looked at I think I was with him when we looked at the list, and he was like, "Oh, Salah's 100% going to be a forward this year," and then he wasn't, and it was really surprising based on where he'd played all season and everything. So just a bit more consistency, I think, about how they class players.
Just before we move on, I just want to just pick up on a point that Jose has made in the live chat, saying that post wildcard I have 4 Gameweek 28 blank players and 1 injury. One of those is a goalkeeper, so I've got 3 outfield players, and I've got Son, and there's 2 transfers to be made there. So in effect, I might end up with 2, but I certainly won't end up with 4. So I don't know what Jose's been smoking. So let's move on to what are we on to now? This is like Gameweek 26, isn't it? It's a Scoutcast. Is like Gameweek 26.
You're royal, Joe, taking on people in the chat. I've got into your head.
Yeah. No, Jose's got into my head. You haven't got my head. Jose has.
Jose did what I could.
I'm not having that from Jose. No way, Jose. Anyway, Gameweek 27. It's a search for a differential. So I'll just run through.
Please, Holly, please.
Sorrowful lot.
Give us a good one.
And so these are the past ones. Then Holly can reveal her choices. So the differential is 5% or below, and for the next 4 game weeks. Late Riser brought some credibility back by picking Pepe, who in style got 17 points last week. Well done. My pick of Trossard got 1 return out of 4, so not so good. McBurney from that was Lee, I think. McBurney, he hasn't done anything so far. And Harvey Barnes, He's only just been picked by Tom last week and hasn't done anything so far, but we anticipate he will. So, Holly, who's the latest differential to bang on this list?
Well, it's been a really easy one for me this week, and it's someone that we've already mentioned where we were talking about Son replacements, and that's Bruno Fernandes. And his ownership at the moment is 2.9%, so he's under that 5% ownership. But I do feel like if he does well again against Watford, then his ownership could skyrocket, because you know what it's like with these Manchester United stars. When they start delivering the points, they become huge bandwagons. And obviously rightly so, because he's got that goal threat that we've seen. We're still waiting for this goal to come outside the box, possibly a nice free kick. And he's going to be on most of the set pieces, as we've already seen for Manchester United. And hopefully, with Martial's poor penalty taking record, he could take up swap kick duty as well. And we've seen Manchester United have been awarded more penalties than any other side this season, as is the case most seasons. So there's plenty of sources of points there. It's an easy swap for Son owners. I'm currently looking at James Maddison in my team and thinking Bruno Fernandes would look nice there.
Well, you know my response to this, yes. Because he's now my number one Son target, and for the reasons you just given. That's it. It's the eye test as well, but it's those set pieces, and that's where it comes down to it. The boring side of the game. Who's the guy who's gonna, on set pieces? Could he be on penalties as well? We don't know. He's that good. I like that. I know we've spoken about Fernandes before. Do you think good differential though?
Yeah, I think he is a good pick. As I said, we talked about earlier. So if he gets all the set pieces and things off Fred, which surely he will do, he's got those in his locker. He's sort of renowned for his goal scoring as well. I think he's got a decent record for Sporting, one goal in every 2 games or something, which is great. And I think they're going to rely on him. They're going to have to rely on him quite a lot if they're going to get anywhere near that top 4 spot, because he's, like you said, Joe, I think he's the kind of the diamond in the team. What I'm really hoping, is that he improves Martial. And I haven't seen much of it in the last 2 games. I know Martial scored yesterday, but it was quite a painful watch as a Martial owner. He just doesn't seem to be, and it's not Fernandes' fault. It's Martial not making runs and not looking involved in attacking play. He lays the ball off and stands looking lazy and sort of trots into the middle. He's not dynamic. He's nowhere. You can see why Rashford got so many goals, because he's so much more dynamic than Martial is. But hopefully things will click, and if he's taking set pieces, Martial can get a few corner goals and things. But yeah, I really like Fernandes. I think he could do really well.
This could be the first time, I think, this season that I've actually got in the differential from whoever's picked it. I think I've considered it before and then always gone something else.
You cursed it, Joe.
And then maybe
we're doing quite well, haven't we?
We're actually doing awfully, apart from late riser so far. But I think hopefully we're going to do well with this one. I just wanted to move on to clean sheets. We'd like to look at the next 6. So the other Fernandes and his Newcastle lads, they're actually top of the tree. Best defensive fixtures for the next 6. They've got Crystal Palace, Burnley, Southampton, Sheffield United, Aston Villa and Bournemouth. And then Wolves in second. So that's why we've got the likes of Bolly in. Matt Doherty would be another good option because we know about his attacking threat, but now it looks like he could get clean sheets to go with it. Wolves have got Norwich, and then they've got Tottenham, who don't have any strikers left anymore. Brighton, West Ham, Bournemouth and Villa. And then Southampton, my man Jack Stevens. He's got Aston Villa, West Ham, Newcastle, Norwich, Arsenal, Watford. That's what I got the Stevens in for. The Stevens Meister will get the clean sheets. And then Crystal Palace, who I'm not interested in. Obviously as a Brighton fan, but nevertheless worth saying because you never know. Crystal Palace have got Newcastle, Brighton, Watford, Bournemouth, Liverpool, that's obviously tough, and then Burnley. And then we can see Leicester's fixtures turn. So they've got the Man City game, and then they've got Norwich, Villa, Watford and Brighton, and then Everton. Norwich are worth mentioning. We mentioned on the captain video and podcast today that Norwich's defence, they're getting bodies back there. They're actually amongst the best defences, if you can believe that, at the moment. Across the season, they're not, and that's why they're they're going to get relegated. But at the moment, they're actually, very comfortably 6th or 7th in the best defences. So one to watch out for there if you're desperate for an enabler. Burnley are there. That's why I was looking at the likes of Taylor as well. Obviously Nick Pope, still a great option. They've got Bournemouth, Newcastle. A couple of toughies with, is it a toughie anymore? Tottenham. City, obviously tough. And then Watford and Crystal Palace. And Arsenal, worth mentioning. They've got that blank in Gameweek 28, so I don't know if any people are going to be stocking up on Arsenal. But they nevertheless do have a nice bunch of blue fixtures, according to the defensive ticker at Fantasy Football Scout. So just some teams to mention there. And good to see Newcastle, Wolves, Southampton up the top there. And Sionju is obviously going to make me regret getting rid of him with his good defensive fixtures there. But let's move on to our Gameweek 27 transfer plans and captaincies. So finally we've got a game week to prepare for. It's happening this weekend. Game week 27. Let's go with your team first, Holly. Take us through your bus team. Who's your captain? What transfers are you thinking of?
Well, I've got 2 free transfers at the moment, so I've got a fair bit of flexibility, and I need to see that all of my players get through their Champions League and Europa League games and the final fixture of FPL in Game Week 26. But in terms of looking at moves, I know I need to bring in a goalkeeper for Game Week 28, but Henderson's going nowhere this week, and ideally I'd like to upgrade Stecklenburg. De Bruyne was going to be the cash cow, but I'm waiting for news on a potential blank game week. I think it's, in terms of my side, I don't feel like I can send my Leicester players anywhere with their fixture in 28. Now I've held them too long to the point where I need to keep them now. So in terms of what I'm going to do, I'm probably just going to make a boring defensive transfer and keep the flexibility going. And, looking at my defence at the moment, just looking at that list that you just showed, Joe, the teams with great fixtures from a defence perspective, it gets all the way down to 7th place with Burnley, where I've actually got some cover there. So I think it's probably going to be Mason Holgate that goes, because Everton's fixtures are awful. And I'm probably going to go to Wolves. I've been looking at Roman Saiss as a potential replacement for Holgate, because I really like the look of Wolves' fixtures, and he's sort of cemented his place in that defence at quite a cheap price.
And he's got attacking threat. That's why he's a good pick.
Exactly. So that's potentially going to be the move that I make, unless something happens between now and Saturday.
Okay.
And then, captaincy. I mean, Danny Ings has got to be in the conversation, but in terms of my armband, I think Ings will be vice. We know now that important lesson that you've taught us, Joe, to captain and vice in different games. And so it's between Salah and Mane for me now. I've heard that Mane was substituted early in the Champions League game, which is promising. But I do think that Salah has got the edge in the home fixture with his set piece from penalties too. So I think I'm going to go Salah.
Yeah, I do urge people to watch the captaincy video or listen to the podcast we did this week, because we've got lots of stats about Salah, Mane, and Salah. Well, I won't reveal those stats, but that will help people's decisions, I think. Let's have a look at your bus team. Tell us about it and who you're captaining and what moves are you considering.
Yeah, so also got two free transfers. I'm sort of relatively well set for Game 28 anyway. I'm one player away from getting a full squad out, so I can, and I've got 2 free transfers, so I can have a bit of a play around this week. I think my 2 sort of biggest problems I can fix, and I mean Firmino isn't really a problem, but I don't think he is the best route into getting the most out of Liverpool. I think, and it's probably taken me about 6 or 7 weeks too long to realise, but I just think the defence, the double up on defence is the way to go. So I can get rid of Firmino and get in Jimenez, who is awesome and should have scored against Leicester and has great fixtures and ticks all the boxes. Bit of a question mark with Europa, but I think is probably one of the best strikers to own. So I think Firmino to Jimenez looks good. And then Dean has done okay. He got sort of one big haul, and he was on for another big haul before they conceded twice in the last sort of 20 seconds against Newcastle, which was really painful. But I could do Firmino and Dean to Jimenez and Robertson. So I think that is probably where I'll go. And then next week I'll have a transfer to get rid of Kelly for a Burnley defender or someone, kind of like for like. And then that kind of gives me more of a team that I'm happy with going forward with the two Liverpool defenders. And yeah, I mean, the rest of my team, Vardy, the time to sell Vardy was probably 2 weeks ago, like Holly said. And now we've kept him for this long, you kind of feel like you've got to stick with him. So I probably will. And the rest of the team looks all right. So that's my plan.
Okay, let's have a look at my team then. And obviously we've seen this marvellous wildcarded side. So I'm going to captain Salah. I had planned to make no changes, but then Son went and got surgery on his arm. So I've got Henderson at the back. I'm playing 3-4-3. Bolly, Stevens and Alexander-Arnold. I've got Son, who will probably become Fernandes. Salah captain, De Bruyne, Grealish. Grealish I'm just not benching. I don't care who he's playing. He's just simply the best player on most pitches.
Yeah, so, I've got him benched this week. I don't feel good about it.
Ings is my vice captain. I think he's the second best. I've got Jimenez. He's another contender, but I just think Ings is consistent at the moment. I know it's Villa. That's why I got rid of Target, because I just feel I can't see any clean sheets from now until the end of the season, really. Firmino is there. Firmino, I think, has obviously got great fixtures. And if Vardy suddenly becomes indispensable again, the Firmino to Vardy move is very, very simple. Either than that, he could become a cash cow. But I've got some money piled up with Son going. On the bench, I've got McCarthy, Moy as my first sub. Now, first subs are becoming important these days. I've got O'Connell and Fernandes. Fernandes plays against Crystal Palace, who are awful. So there could be a clean sheet there. I could be benching a clean sheet there. I could be benching a clean sheet with O'Connell, but I don't fancy doing a double up in defence at the moment. I don't need to with Bolly there. I can just mix it up a bit. It's borderline bench boostable, weirdly, this week. But I think Gameweek 29 is also bench boostable with this setup. But I'll probably leave it for a double game week, but it is an option. I'm thinking I've got the personnel for it. And Aaron Moy I'm going to unleash on Palace in game week 28, and they won't know what's hit them with that bald maestro in midfield. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing with my wasted wildcard. But just before we go, just mention the members area. Obviously you can get membership monthly and for the rest of the season. A lot of the stats that we've been mentioning, obviously a lot of the season ticker stuff as well. Do have a look on there. They've got all the members tables as well, goals imminent table, all those kinds of things, all in there. Well worth having a look at. It's also good if you're thinking about what tweaks you might make to the game as well. Have a look at some of those options, some of the points that perhaps defensive midfielders get, those types of things. Might help you with some decisions around that as well, for you, some ideas of your own around FPL. But for now, it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Good night.
Good night all.